Press with your host, Drew Duncan. Don't you dare touch that dial.
It's guarded by Olynyk. Crossed him up. Look who's in his bag. He lulled him to sleep. He lulled him to sleep with the dribble. How about that move right there? Was that quick? Mainly because he's going, and now he just comes right back. You're anticipating him getting into the paint. No, I'm coming right back. And in the advantage, left-handed easy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Full Court Press. I am your host, Drew Duncan. We're live on 99.5 ESPN Radio in Emporia, Kansas. Emporia's only 24-hour sports station. You just heard it right there. Ben Simmons going all in as the Philadelphia 76ers may have had, to me, they had the most impressive victory. They had the most impressive victory out of anybody. And, the reason for that is, and I understand the upset of the weekend without any question, I think goes to the Indiana Pacers for beating the Cleveland Cavaliers in Game 1. I don't think there's any dispute about that. By the way, 620-343-6143 is the number. It's 620-343-6143. But the best overall performance went to the 76ers. And I'm going to tell you why. It's not just because they are the second youngest team in all of basketball. It's not just because of the intense pace that they kept for the entire game. It's because when they were ahead, I have right here in my notes, really great gameplay so far in the first half. Can they be mature enough to handle it in the second half? And when Miami started to come back on them, they showed the poise of a team that had nothing but veterans on their squad. That's exactly how that went down. I mean, that is exactly what happened. There was no doubt for the majority of that basketball game that the 76ers were the better team, at least that night. And I mean, for me, I'm sitting there and I'm watching this game and I'm thinking to myself, really? I mean, where is Miami? Granted, they're not the most veteran team in the NBA, but you do have Dwayne Wade. Now, I will say this. Before I go riding them too tough here, the 76ers did show their youth in a couple of different ways. Number one, man, they had some wild plays in that game. I mean, there were bodies flying all over the place. And, I mean, you even heard the announcer at one point, I think it was Hubie Brown, by the way, greatest basketball commentator of all time, Hubie Brown. You even heard him at one point say, the referee's got to get control of this game. Because there were bodies flying everywhere. Some of the other things I saw were some really bad decision-making and passes, trying to force the issue in transition when there's nobody there. You're trying to create fouls. So you're literally stopping, hoping that guys run into you when they see past that move. And, you're throwing up wild shots. I mean, there were a couple of instances where you could see the youth of that basketball team and the way that they play with all that speed and flying up and down the court really got the better of them. Now, obviously, there's not a whole lot to complain about with a team that wins by 27 points and they're not projected to make it past the first round, period. Obviously, there wasn't a lot to not like about that the other night. Another great way that they showed maturity was after the Miami run, initially 23-4 after being down 19-12, and the 76ers took care of business again. But another way they showed their immaturity was some of the off-balance shots that they took. It was just kind of like, so I'm watching this game, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, Ben Simmons gets a wide open look, and he just throws it off balance. He just, like, dude, just step into the shot and make it. Just take a basketball shot. You're kind of doing all this wild and crazy stuff in the air, and, You're trying to I don't know what they were trying to do at some point. I mean, I'm watching this and I'm going, man, these guys really got to calm down. And with the kind of pace that they want to keep, look, it's worked out for them well. They won 50 games this year. But let's be honest about something. In the playoffs, you have a tendency to get drained. And in the playoffs, there's a lot of physical basketball. And though they prove that they can play physical basketball with anybody that they want to, one thing to remember is you run into a guy like anybody from the Western Conference, basically, Steven Adams, because I'm thinking ahead. I'm thinking NBA Finals. Look, after what I saw last night, if they play that way again tonight, I'm calling it. If they play that way again tonight, I'm telling you right now, 76ers to the finals. If they play that way again tonight against Miami, it will be Philly in the finals. Because based off of what I saw from Cleveland, based off of what I saw from Boston, I know everybody's going to go, well, Boston won. Well, just because you win, that doesn't mean that you're great either. Look, there's a lot to get past with the Philadelphia 76ers. I don't know that look, it's entertaining to watch. I think the pace that they keep is awesome. But can you do that all the way into a 7-game series if it has to come to that? Can you be physical enough against some of these other teams like, let's say, a Milwaukee or Indiana? I mean, can you really do that? Toronto? Can you be physical enough to be able to deal with any of those teams? That's all I'm saying. I know that a lot of people say that the East isn't that good, but the East holds a better record over the West right now for this season. And I think the East is a lot tougher than people give them credit for. And I got to tell you, there were a lot of people that were overlooking the Toronto Raptors, which it blew my mind. You got the Cleveland Cavaliers coming in as a 4 seed. Nobody's talking about Toronto clinching the number 1 seed. What was it, a week and a half before 2 weeks before the playoffs even started? Yeah, nobody talking about the Philadelphia 76ers other than, well, Villanova won 1. The Eagles won 1. Are the Sixers next? It was kind of like in a joking manner. But do you guys understand that over the last couple of seasons, the 76ers have won a total of 30 games? Do you get that? And with the youth of this team, it is amazing to me that they even won a game in any playoffs. An 18-year streak, the longest in NBA history, not only came to an end, but came to an end with a 27-point win over one of the game's greatest players of all time in Dwayne Wade. And then, by the way, they did it without Joel Embiid, who was their leading scorer. They did that without him. 130 points without a guy who gets you your highest amount of points. That is saying something, believe it or not. Now, I will say this, and these are things that have a tendency to catch up to you. And again, just kind of the back and forth here, pro versus con, however you want to say it, and showing their youth at the end of that game, hitting that 3-point shot, as excited as they were, and I get all that, may not have been exactly the best decision in the world. Look, the last thing that you want to do in the NBA playoffs is start playing the let's all show out game. And the last thing you want to do in the NBA playoffs is start playing the we're going to rub it in game. Part of being a professional is acting like a professional. Now, I do agree that the other team's got to stop it. I'm not one of those everybody gets a trophy people. Let's just all calm down for a second before I start getting phone calls and tweets and all that stuff. Let's just hang on here. Okay, I get it. It's an 18-year streak that has finally been broke, and they did it against Dwayne Wade and the Miami Heat. I understand why they were excited. Plus, they're a bunch of young kids, and I don't have a problem with them celebrating. What I am saying is when you rub it in like that, you send a message to the other team of, okay, They think they're cute now. All right, we'll show you how cute you are. And believe me when I tell you, in the professional game, you never want to get too cute. I don't think that people fully understand sometimes when you hear an announcer say, yeah, they got a little too cute there. Just play the game, bro. Don't try and do too much. Kind of stay in your lane every now and again. You know, a dunk or something like that, I probably would have been okay with. Because that would have been like an exclamation point. But that three-point shot and everybody going nuts and all that stuff, I mean, it was just kind of like one of those deals where you, from a perspective of outside looking in, you start thinking to yourself, I wonder if that can come back to get him. You know, LeBron and everybody's talking about how he's no stranger to being down 3-1. Neither is Dwayne Wade. I guess we all forget that NBA final, don't we? Where Dwayne Wade had already done it. Him and Shaq. Remember Pat Riley? He called in a meeting. Those guys weren't allowed to talk to the media. It was all but over. Remember that? I do. How many of us had already conceded defeat? Just, well, this one's over. Pat Riley said nobody, and I mean nobody's talking to the media for the next 3 games. And to hear Shaq talk about it, he said, look, man, we all went back in and had a little come-to-you-know-who meeting, and that was it. And Coach Riley got us back focused, and we were not allowed to talk to the media because he didn't want any of this hoopla going on anymore in the locker room. So Dwayne Wade is no stranger to these situations either. This is where we're going to see what this 76er team is made of. Because they're coming off of a huge win. There's a big rally going on right now, a big push for these guys. They're going to be getting a lot of media attention after that kind of a win. Guys are going to be doing interviews. Everybody's going to be trying to talk to them. Can we get Ben Simmons on the air? Can we get Joel Embiid on the air? Can we get their head coach on the air? Hey, why not? Let's talk to the owner for a little while. Let's get some fans in here. I mean, this is a big deal. People are tweeting. They're commenting on Facebook. They're sharing videos. Right now, they are riding the proverbial wave. How you handle this is going to show where your maturity level is at. Because the whole thing about basketball or any sport, to be honest with you, is the ability to stay focused and play even-keeled basketball. And there were a lot of times when I saw them playing with just a lot of raw emotion. You've got to be able to keep that stuff in check every now and again. And some of that emotion came out at the end of the game. What I want to see from the Philadelphia 76ers tonight is being able to stay even. All right, I thought about taking a break. Let me see what I can do about a call here real quick. Let's go to the phone lines. Full Court Press, ESPN 99.5 Radio. You're live. Who am I talking to?
Hey, Drew, it's Brad, man. How's it going?
Hey, Brad. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. Just wanted to say, by the way, I really like the show. I think it's cool that you're bringing a local flavor, you know, not just hearing national guys all the time. You kind of hear the same thing over and over from those guys. So I just want to tell you, you know, I can speak for a lot of people. We appreciate that you're here, man.
No doubt. Appreciate it. What else is on your mind, Brad?
Hey, okay, so a couple things. One, wanted to see what your thoughts were on the Thunder game and Paul George showing out. And, I mean, didn't really get a whole lot from Melo, got some from some of the role players, but wanted to see what your thoughts were. If they can put it together, if they can have Paul George playing like that, have Russ do his thing, Melo even just step up a little bit, maybe where he's averaged, we'll just say 20, what your thoughts are going forward for them. And then the next one, this is something I was thinking about. I don't hear anyone talking about Mason Rudolph. I'm a big OSU Cowboys fan, and I don't hear anybody talking about Mason Rudolph at all. My thoughts were I'd like to see maybe him go to, I'm not a Patriots fan, but I'd wondered if he's the kind of guy that might end up getting picked up by the Patriots for the future, or kind of what your thoughts were where he might end up landing.
Well, Brad, if you listened to the show last week, I actually brought up Mason Rudolph. And Mason Rudolph is one of the more underrated quarterbacks. I think the problem is the consistency level. there's a lot of people that I think look at Mason and they see the first half of the season was really great. And then they go into the second half of the season and they see some of the losses and they see some of the numbers decline and they go, we don't know. Because let's be honest, Mason Rudolph had one of the, again, underrated wide receivers in all college football in James Washington. I mean, how many people are talking about Calvin Ridley and Washington gets left out of the equation? That's who I think Dallas could look at because they love their OSU players. So as far as where Mason Rudolph could end up, look, I wouldn't mind seeing him in Denver. In terms of being in New England, I think it would be great because he's kind of already used to that controlled environment. So I could see where that happens. To your other question about the Oklahoma City Thunder, we're actually getting ready to talk about that here momentarily, so I'll hit that question after the break. Anything else on your mind, Brad?
No, man, keep doing your thing. We all appreciate it.
Absolutely, will do. All right, everybody, that was Brad checking in. Brad wants to know about Mason Rudolph. There you have it. I talked a little bit about Mason last week on this program. Matter of fact, he was who I brought up, I believe it was either Monday or Tuesday on the show, when I said, look, Ferguson, Rudolph, and Jackson would be the guys that I would look at in the NFL draft. Those would be my guys. I don't like Darnoldson or Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, or Baker Mayfield. I think Baker's got a little too much going on off the field. Not to say that he can't fix it, so I don't really too much about that, but where would he go that would play his style of offense? He needs backyard football, and we've already seen that with Tim Tebow. We've already seen backyard football with Tebow. People say they didn't like it. They say it didn't work out, even though he won games. That is Baker Mayfield. He's a backyard football player. There's nothing wrong with it. I love watching that. But where would he fit in the NFL? What team plays that kind of game that would use him? He's a backup. Let's be honest. Plus, OU quarterbacks don't really, do all that great in the NFL anyway. Sam Bradford would have been better, but he can't, stay healthy. 620-343-6143 is the number. Thanks for the call, Brad. 620-343-6143 is the number. We can talk NFL draft if you want to. Coming up next is the Oklahoma City Thunder. We got a lot to talk about. He has nicknamed himself Playoff P. We call him PG-13. You can call him whatever you want. But what he really wants to be called is champion. We're going to talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder coming up right after this. Don't you dare touch that dial.